Arata woke up from a nightmare where everything around him was shrouded in darkness, and he was reaching out to grab Hijiri's hand to save her. When he woke up, he accidentally had his hand on Hijiri's chest. He greeted her and asked if she had made breakfast. Before heading off to school, the two of them ate together. During breakfast, Arata asked if Hijiri was still mad at him. Hijiri told him to talk about something else, so Arata made a comment about how her chest seemed to have gotten a little bigger. Hijiri scolded him, but Arata just said that it was a good thing. He brought up an old drawing where Hijiri had written "Hijiri loves Arata," saying she looked like a little kid when she drew it. Hijiri was surprised that he still had it and said it was embarrassing. But it turned out Arata had even set it as his phone wallpaper. The two of them left for school together. Hijiri was not only Arata's cousin, but also his childhood friend. Arata thought she could be annoying and bossy, but he did not hate being around her. Hijiri commented on how clear the weather was that day. Arata looked up and saw the sun covered in black, but assumed it was just his imagination. Suddenly, a girl passed by and he heard her voice telling him to wake up or else she would kill him. Later in class, Arata was still thinking about the girl's voice from that morning. During lunch break, he went up to the school rooftop and spaced out. Hijiri found him there and said she had not known he liked spending time up there. She asked why he looked like something was on his mind. Arata asked if the sun had always been black. Hijiri was confused and told him that, as far as she knew, the sun had been black even before he was born. Arata asked if she was being serious. Hijiri told him that the world he was in was exactly the world he had wished for, a place where the two of them could be together and have fun every day. So why would it matter if the sun was black? She even said that if he stayed with her forever, she would do anything he wanted. That made Arata question whether the person in front of him was really Hijiri. To test her, he asked about his birthday, his favorite food, and where he hid his adult magazines. She answered all of them. His birthday was June 18th, his favorite food was fried chicken, and he kept the magazines under his bed. Hijiri asked if he still did not believe her and said she had never lied to him. Then Arata asked again what color the sun was. Hijiri said it was obviously black. Arata reminded her that when they were kids, she had drawn it red. He was sure that Hijiri had never lied to him, so he started wondering who the girl in front of him really was and where the real Hijiri had gone. Hijiri laughed and said that Arata had backed her into a corner. She admitted she never expected him to figure out just from that drawing. Suddenly, a girl fired a shot at Hijiri. Thankfully, she managed to activate his shield in time. Arata realized that it was the same girl he had seen that morning. She introduced herself as Lilith. Arata asked why she was wearing something that looked like an assassin's outfit, and Lilith explained it was actually a battle uniform for mages. Arata was totally confused about what was going on. Hijiri snapped her fingers and changed everything in front of him. The world around them started to fall apart. Hijiri told him that this was actually the world he had been living in all along. Lilith explained that 3 days ago, a massive gravitational disturbance of unknown origin had been detected in that area. The incident was known as a breakdown phenomenon. The entire city had been swallowed up by a gravitational quake. Arata held his head in pain as the memories came flooding back. Hijiri asked if he had finally remembered what happened. Arata recalled the moment when the sunlight turned black and the dark light swallowed everything. That was when Hijiri gave him a magic book and asked him to save the world to make her wish come true. She had asked him to wake up in the morning after she left to make sure he ate 3 times a day and to keep himself clean. She kissed Arata, and not long after that, her body began to fade. She told him not to forget about her. Back then, Arata had no idea what was going on or where everyone had gone. All he knew was that he was holding the magic book and wished for everything to go back to normal. It suddenly hit him. He was the one who caused it all. Hijiri admitted that she had been asked to grant Arata's wish, so she created a world that matched exactly what he wanted. Lilith was also shocked as she had been sent by the school to investigate the phenomenon. What she found was a city that was never supposed to exist. Hijiri said it was no trouble at all for her to create it. According to Lilith, the magic book was incredibly dangerous. If anything went wrong, the damage could spread, possibly creating an entirely different world. A regular magic book could never do something like that. Lilith gave Arata 2 options: either hand over the book and erase the fake world, or refuse and be killed on the spot, since no one else wanted that false world except him. If he chose the first option, Lilith promised he could go back to living a peaceful life, but they would destroy the book and wipe his memories of Hijiri and the others. If he refused, she would kill him right then and there. Arata laughed and asked why he would want to live if it meant forgetting everything, especially Hijiri. He asked where the real Hijiri was and what had happened to her. The fake Hijiri explained that the real one was still alive, while she was just a shadow projection of her. The real Hijiri was somewhere across space and time. Once Arata realized that Hijiri was still alive, he said he would not give up the magic book or accept death. Instead, he chose a third option. Arata then followed Lilith to Biblia Academy to learn magic. The magic school was located deep in the countryside. Lilith was still surprised that Arata had been let off so easily. Nothing like that had ever happened before. Arata had previously asked to become a mage, believing that since all mages had magic books, that meant he could become one too. Lilith had never heard of something like that, but considering he had created an entire world, it made sense. Arata was confident in his choice to become a mage, no matter how small the chance might be. While walking through the academy halls, Arata found out that Lilith was actually a teacher at the school. He asked her how old she was, and she replied that she was the same age as him. She showed him his classroom and reminded him to treat everyone with respect. Lilith introduced Arata to the class and he greeted everyone. Out of nowhere, Selena asked Arata what kind of girls he liked. Arata replied that he appreciated all kinds of personalities, but what mattered most to him was someone who was kind and beautiful on the inside. Selena asked again if it was really true that Arata could create a new world, even though that kind of power was supposedly only possible for someone on the level of a demon lord. Arata then asked if there was truly no one else who could do something like that. Suddenly, the whole class erupted in excitement, saying that they had a future demon lord candidate right there in their class. Rumors started flying around the school about Arata, the new student who supposedly had magic as powerful as a demon lord. Selena had deliberately spread the news to everyone, even claiming that Arata had the ability to create his own world. That same day, the headmaster called Arata to his office. Lilith mentioned that because of the rumor, they had not been able to get anything done in class. Arata just shrugged it off, saying the rumor actually sounded kind of cool. The headmaster welcomed Arata on behalf of the school and explained that Biblia Academy was actually a super-secret organization that trained mages. The school was backed by governments from all over the world and handled unsolved cases involving magic. At Biblia Academy, mages were known as magus. Arata asked if becoming a mage meant he could bring Hijiri back. The headmaster said he could not guarantee anything, but magic had the potential to make the impossible possible. In other words, whether something could happen or not really depended on the individual. Lilith added that there were no shortcuts. Only those who work hard and stayed disciplined would succeed. Arata reminded them that the headmaster had just said magic could make the impossible happen. Lilith did not have an answer for that. The headmaster confirmed what he had said and went on to explain that the school had 7 top students, each one outstanding in their field, who were called the Trinity 7. They were like boss-level characters in a game, and Lilith was one of them. Arata acknowledged that Lilith certainly looked the part, though Lilith insisted that appearance did not mean anything. The headmaster told Arata that if he could get to know the Trinity 7 and earn their trust, he might begin to understand what it truly meant to be a mage. After they left the headmaster's office, Lilith told Arata not to take everything the headmaster said so seriously. While walking through the hallway, Arata suddenly sensed someone's presence above him. The girl dropped down from the ceiling, realizing that Arata had noticed her. She landed gracefully and approached him. Arata was impressed and said she looked like a ninja. The girl introduced herself as Leifi. She actually was a ninja. Arata asked if that meant she wasn't a mage. Leifi explained that ninja arts, astrology, and even more intimate forms of magic all fell under the category of sorcery. Arata was surprised by the last part, but Lilith quickly told him it wasn't any of his business. Lilith then pointed out that Leifi was also one of the Trinity 7. Arata said Leifi was pretty amazing. Leifi playfully claimed she knew everything, from deadly combat techniques to more risky tricks. Lilith quickly stepped in, asking Leifi to stop talking like that. Leifi laughed and said she was only joking. She added that she found Arata amusing and kind of cute. Arata replied that he was just acting normal, but Lilith said he was anything but normal. Curious, Arata asked what the other members of the Trinity 7 were like. Leifi told him they were currently out on a transformation mission. She pointed outside at 2 girls, Akio and Mira. According to Leifi, when it came to raw ability, Mira was said to be even more skilled than Lilith, and in terms of offense, Akio was practically unbeatable. Arata was surprised to find out that all the members were girls. According to Leifi, magic is rooted in research on thoughts and emotions, which is why girls are generally more suited to being mages. Arata then asked if that meant being more emotional, like being honest about one's desires, was better. Lilith quickly shut that down, telling him that wasn't the case and that he needed to keep himself in check with things like that. Leifi and Arata laughed at Lilith, teasing her about how she seemed a bit too interested in that kind of topic. Annoyed, Lilith smacked Arata and stormed off. Arata only then realized that Lilith was actually more emotional than he thought. Leffy pointed out that she had never seen Lilith that expressive before. Usually, she was more of the calm and collected type. So the fact that she acted like that toward Arata meant he might actually be someone special to her. That night, Arata was lying in bed in his room trying to figure out where his grimoire had gone. Out of nowhere, the book appeared, floating right near his neck. The grimoire asked if he was surprised. Arata replied that after everything that happened that day, not much could surprise him anymore. The book suggested that he take a bath, saying it'd be refreshing, especially after such a long day. Arata made his way to the boys' bathroom, planning to soak in the tub. To his shock, he spotted Hijiri already in there. Trying to keep it cool, Arata greeted her casually. As he started washing his hair, Hijiri suddenly told him that he was using the wrong bottle. It wasn't shampoo. She held up the actual shampoo bottle to show him. Arata freaked out, shouting that she was the one who should be screaming out of surprise. Instead, Hijiri calmly mimicked his scream in his soft voice. Thrown off by how unfazed Hijiri seemed, Arata froze. Then Hijiri blurted out something totally unexpected, mentioning her size. Completely panicked, Arata sprinted out of the bathroom, yelling the whole way. Lilith, seeing the commotion, asked what was going on, but she quickly turned around after realizing Arata wasn't wearing a shirt. That, she said, was totally inappropriate. Arata couldn't help thinking that Hijiri's reaction had been nothing like Lilith's. Lilith had the kind of response you'd expect from someone who just saw a guy without clothes. Arata told her that Hijiri had been in the bathroom, but Lilith asked if he met Erin. She explained that Erin was one of the Trinity Seven, and honestly, she thought Erin looked a lot like Hijiri. Lilith went to find Erin and reminded her that she was in the boys' bathroom. Erin had gone in on purpose, thinking there wouldn't be any guys there. When Lilith told her that someone was already inside, Erin didn't seem to care in the slightest. After getting dressed, Arata called for his grimoire again. The book asked if he wasn't happy after all. Most guys might be. But Arata admitted he didn't know how to feel. The grimoire explained that while Erin might have the same face as Hijiri, what was inside her was completely different. Just getting to know her was already something meaningful. Arata started to realize that Erin might be connected to Hijiri in some way. And the Trinity Seven, they were probably going to be a huge part of his life. Suddenly, Lilith shouted from outside the room, telling Arata to please put some pants on. That day, Lilith was teaching in Arata's class. Everyone seemed to be watching Arata closely, and he couldn't figure out why. When he asked Lilith about it, she got no idea either. Erin, who sat next to Arata, had been keeping a constant eye on him. She followed him everywhere he went. During lunch break, Erin sat directly in front of him while he was trying to enjoy his meal. She kept tailing him around, even following him toward the bathroom. Arata tried to stop her from entering the men's room, but Erin casually said she didn't mind. He quickly pointed out that he minded, and clearly, it was bothering him. He asked her why she had been following him around all day and watching his every move. Erin responded by asking if she really did that. That just made Arata even more frustrated. Erin asked if he didn't like jokes. He told her it wasn't that he hated jokes, but there were limits. Erin said she was keeping an eye on him because he was the future demon lord. She explained that it was only natural for her to watch over someone who would be her future partner. Then she walked off, saying he'd probably understand soon enough. Later that day, Arata found Selena, Leffy, and Lilith hanging out in his room. He asked why they were all there. Selena said she wanted to interview him. Leffy was just curious to see what his room looked like. Lilith, on the other hand, said she couldn't leave the girls alone in a boy's room, especially since she was still technically a teacher, even if she was the same age as Arata. Selena started her interview, mentioning that the future demon lord was the center of attention at school. Arata agreed to be interviewed. When asked about his favorite food, he said it was fried chicken. Leffy offered to make him some, even joking that she'd add a love potion to it. Surprisingly, Arata didn't say no. Selena asked if he was okay with that, even if there was a love potion in it. He said he didn't mind, it wasn't like the fried chicken he usually had. Then she asked who he'd go after first, since eating the chicken might make him go wild. Arata replied that he'd probably go for whoever had the biggest chest. Lilith was clearly annoyed by his answer. Arata apologized and said he was just joking. He then asked them to tell him more about magic. Lilith agreed to help. Selena whispered to Leffy that Lilith seemed like a surprisingly caring teacher. Leffy responded that when it came to anything related to classwork, Lilith would always be gentle. That led both of them to start imagining something suggestive between Lilith and Arata. Lilith quickly shut that down, saying it was never going to happen. Selena and Leify teased that Lilith looked especially cute and flustered when being teased. Arata then asked Lilith about the magic book she was holding. She explained that it was the Astel manuscript. She found out about it from the headmaster, and it turned out to be a legendary magic book said to hold information about another world. Arata finally understood just how important the book really was. The whole reason he came to this magic school was to follow the clues from that book and hopefully find Hijiri. Lilith told him it made sense that he didn't know about the manuscript. It had always been considered just a legend. Lilith went on to explain that what a mage needed was a research concept known as a thema, and that the 7 deadly sins serve as their archives. Suddenly, the room went dark. At first, they thought it was a power outage, but the magic book announced that they were actually trapped inside a barrier. The book began to glow. In the confusion, Arata accidentally landed on top of Selena, and his hand ended up on Lilith's chest. Lilith screamed and immediately slapped him. Neither the door handle nor the window would open. They were really stuck inside the barrier, a miniature version of another world created by Arata himself. Hearing Arata talk so casually with a magic book, Selena was amazed that he could discuss something so incredible without any hesitation. Arata explained that since he already understood what was going on, there was no point in freaking out. Lilith said the barrier had cut them off from their dimension, and that it was the first time she had seen anything like it even after all her years at the academy. The magic book mentioned that the current game seemed to be about figuring out how to escape from their situation. Arata suspected that the book actually knew how to get out, but unfortunately, it went back to sleep, telling them to just let it know once they'd solved the puzzle. Before it dozed off, Arata asked the book not to turn off its light. Even though they were all trapped, no one panicked, thankfully. According to Arata, panicking was pointless. What mattered was doing whatever they could. He tried smashing through the trap's wall with a chair, but the chair shattered. Arata brushed it off, saying it wasn't a big deal. Selena wondered if he was doing something completely irrational. Arata explained that the book had told him to think that way because magic wasn't limited by logic. So doing something illogical might be the key to breaking out. But it turned out he was wrong. Selena started wondering who set this up and why. Leify guessed that Arata might be a main target. Arata thought whoever was behind it was probably testing his power. The problem was, it was hard to prove anything when he couldn't really do much. Still, although it was all vague, he had a hunch who was behind it. For now, though, he was willing to play along. They began checking every corner of the room. At one point, Arata even suggested they just give up and take a nap. Selena quickly reminded him that giving up wasn't an option. She also pointed out something important Arata had overlooked. There wasn't a bathroom in the room. Arata told everyone not to worry, saying that if anything happened, he wouldn't say a word about it. Suddenly, Lilith looked like she was struggling to hold something in, but she didn't say anything. Seeing this, both Leify and Selena panicked. They were running out of time and had to get out of the barrier fast. Arata joked that if a hot teacher like Lilith had an accident, it would definitely ruin the vibe in a weird and dangerous way. Selena tried to encourage Lilith to hang in there. But not long after, both Leify and Selena started showing the same signs. They were clearly fighting the urge as well. With no other option, Arata decided to call on the magic book again. It was still half asleep, so Arata pretended that he had already figured out how to escape. Leify and Selena followed his lead and claimed the same thing. Then Arata told the book they didn't need its help anymore. Lilith thought that kind of cheap trick wouldn't work on a legendary magic book. But suddenly, the book spoke up and asked if they had noticed something strange under the bed. Hearing that, Arata immediately instructed the others to check underneath. As soon as they sensed a magic source under the bed, Lilith didn't hesitate. She blasted it. The magic source was destroyed and the door finally unlocked. Arata wasted no time telling the 3 of them to head to the bathroom. The magic book commented that Arata was smarter than it thought. He even managed to fool a book like that. And clearly, solving the puzzle in that way wasn't the logical route at all. The book said it was really looking forward to the thema Arata would choose next. Arata then asked how to make the most out of a research thema. The magic book seemed surprised that he didn't already know. Just then, Erin appeared in front of the room and explained that a thema was a research concept that consumed a wizard's full focus. It involved carrying out everything they'd learned in their research, and a wizard could cast their magic using that thema as a spell. Arata guessed the barrier must have been Erin's, since she showed up at the perfect moment. Erin admitted she didn't think Arata would be able to break through with such a cheap trick. But Arata believed it was actually a clever and courageous win. Erin asked if he was mad at her. Arata smiled and replied that thanks to her, he got to witness a pretty strange but interesting scene involving 3 attractive girls trying to hold it in. He even thanked her for it. Erin asked Arata if he had a habit of peeking on girls while they were using the bathroom. If that was the case, she said she'd just go right there. Arata called her a total maniac. Suddenly, the magic book chimed in, saying Arata always acted like a good guy whenever he was around Erin. But Arata figured the book was just messing with him. The book then asked if it was because Erin looked like Hijiri, and Arata admitted he hadn't really thought about that. Erin greeted the magic book and introduced herself. They hit it off pretty quickly, and she ended up borrowing the book. Arata couldn't deny it. Erin really did remind him of Hijiri. Curious, he asked Erin why she had sealed off his room. Turns out it was because Arata was being referred to as the Demon Lord candidate. Confused, Arata wondered why everyone kept calling him that and asked what exactly a Demon Lord was supposed to be. Erin explained that it meant he was destined to be the king of those who walk the path of destruction, and that was him. She also mentioned that the headmaster knew about it too. Right then, the headmaster suddenly appeared in front of them. But instead of acknowledging him, Arata asked Erin if they could go somewhere more private to talk in detail. Surprisingly, they completely ignored the headmaster, even though he had just used a flashy technique to make an entrance. Arata and Erin walked into a room where Lilith was already waiting. Without warning, Erin casually asked Arata if he would be interested in sharing a bed before marriage. Arata responded by saying it was a bold idea, leaving Lilith completely stunned by the unexpected conversation. Arata then told Lilith that her presence helped him stay calm and asked if she would stay with him a little longer. Seeing that, Erin accused Arata of being unfaithful to her. Arata just smiled and joked that having them both around did not sound like a bad thing. That earned him a sharp slap from Lilith. Trying to shift the focus, Arata asked Erin why she had locked them inside his room. Lilith was surprised to learn that Erin was behind it. Erin explained that she did not mean to trap anyone, she just did not want to waste time. She added that the headmaster had told her a strong emotional conflict could trigger a major magical phenomenon in the Demon Lord candidate. Arata suggested they go talk to the headmaster, but Lilith revealed she had already dealt with him by tying him up and tossing him into the waste incinerator, since she thought he would only make things worse. Still confused, Lilith asked why the situation needed to escalate into a destructive magical event. Erin said she wanted to show them something. She told Arata to place his hand on hers, and a strange magical force began to take shape. Erin linked it to the Ira archive to activate her magic Thema. Her Thema was Ruina, which meant destruction. Arata suddenly felt a surge of pain as Erin broke through the magical restraints of his spellbook. She forced its limits, making it impossible for Arata to hold back the power inside him. His magic book then asked Erin if she was trying to push Arata's magic beyond its limits. Lilith began to worry. If this continued, the entire school might be affected by a destructive magical reaction. Not long after, objects all around the school began breaking down into tiny particles. Lilith realized this was the phenomenon they had been warned about, and it looked extremely dangerous. Erin explained that destruction was the core of her Thema. Since Arata was closest to Ruina, she believed it was their responsibility as mages to study this kind of magic, no matter how extreme it seemed. Even she had not expected the effect to be so powerful. Meanwhile, Selena approached Leify and asked what was happening. Leify guessed it had to be a breakdown phenomenon, especially since even the sun appeared to be darkening. The headmaster, tied up elsewhere, was in disbelief that Erin had actually triggered the event. If it kept spreading, the entire academy could collapse, and he knew he could not allow that to happen. The magical energy kept growing. Erin was shocked by how much power had been unleashed. Lilith realized that if this did not stop, the damage might not be limited to just the school, it could reach far beyond that. She aimed her weapon at Arata, preparing to stop him, but Erin stepped between them. Lilith asked her to move, but Erin refused. She could not stand by while someone hurt the man she considered her future partner. Lilith reminded her that the destruction could take out everything, including Erin herself. But Erin insisted. To her, the purpose of magic was to explore the unknown, even if it meant stepping into something as dangerous as destruction. Just then, Mira and Akio suddenly broke through the wall, calling in a surprise entrance. They had just returned from trying to contain another breakdown event elsewhere, only to find their own school under threat. Mira was a top Brumoyer security officer, and Akio held the third highest rank in that division. Lilith asked why they were back so soon, since their mission was still underway. Akio answered that it had already been wrapped up. Suddenly, the destructive energy stopped. Mira had used her own powerful magic to neutralize it. Her Thuma was Eustitia, linked to Superbia, the archive of pride. Mira stated that she would not allow any form of magical corruption to spread. She then ordered Akio to eliminate Arata, since he was the source of the incident. Akio activated her magic and prepared to strike. Lilith stepped forward and told her not to do it. Erin tried to move but realized she could not. Akio told them not to take it personally. This was just part of her duty. She was there to eliminate anything that threatened balance, and Arata was currently seen as that threat. Without hesitation, she launched a powerful kick directly at him. Arata and Arin were punished for blowing up the school by being assigned to work at a beachside food stall. Arin admitted it was Arata's fault, since she saw him as her husband, but Arata argued she was just as responsible. In the end, Arin said it was just husband and wife teamwork. Lilith reminded them that they were absolutely forbidden from doing any more experiments that could destroy the school. Arata got that working was part of their punishment, but he still wondered why they had to do it on a remote southern island. Lilith explained that the headmaster had planned the trip ahead of time. Plus, since the school was unusable anyway, he thought this would be a good opportunity. At that moment, the headmaster was actually back at the school, fixing the mess himself. Arata was surprised. He did not expect the headmaster to be that capable. Just then, Selena and Leffy showed up. Leffy pointed out that even if the headmaster did not look like much, he was actually one of the top 5 mages in the world. Arata complimented their swimsuits, and Leffy said they were designed to draw attention to flat-chested girls. Selena quickly insisted she was not flat, but Leffy argued flat-chested girls were great and could definitely steal the spotlight. Out of nowhere, Arata said he liked all kinds of chests as long as they belonged to beautiful girls. Then Selena suddenly yanked down Lilith's bikini top, flashing her chest at Arata and leaving her completely mortified. Arata gave her a perfect score, 100 points. Selena was stunned that Lilith had even worn a bikini, and Leffy accused her of trying to seduce Arata. Arata started daydreaming about Lilith asking him to rub sunscreen on her, and in the heat of the moment, he blurted out a marriage proposal. Watching from the side, Arin asked if he was trying to build a harem. Lilith shut him down right away and told him to stop saying ridiculous things. Before Arata could say anything else, he saw something even more amazing than swimsuits, but Lilith quickly pointed her magic gun at him to shut him up before things got out of hand. Earlier, Mira had ordered Akio to eliminate Arata. Lilith had tried to stop her, and Arin wanted to help too, but she suddenly found herself unable to move. Akio did not hesitate. She said not to take it personally, it was just her duty to eliminate evil. She landed a powerful kick on Arata, and Mira thanked her. Akio thought the job was done. Then Arin noticed that Arata's magic had vanished completely. Mira told Akio it was time to return, since the mission seemed complete. But right then, a new destructive phenomenon started to stir. Akio asked what was going on. Wasn't Arata supposed to be the source of all this? Mira said calmly that there was a simple explanation. Meanwhile, Arata found himself in a blank, silent space. The only sound he could hear was a violin playing in the distance. He followed it and came across a door, which led to a girl's bedroom. There, a girl playing the violin greeted him. Her name was Yui. She called him Big Brother, saying he felt like someone older than her. Arata asked if this was her world, though he doubted it was heaven. Yui explained that his body had been completely destroyed after Akio's attack. At the last second, she had pulled him into her world. Outside, though, things had fallen into chaos. She showed him what was happening through a drawer that acted like a window into reality. If things continued the way they were going, the entire school would be destroyed. Back in the real world, people around the school began turning to dust one by one. Those with weaker magic were being pulled in first. Selena was confused by how calm Leffy looked, but in truth, Leffy was absolutely terrified. Lilith, Arin, Akio, and Mira were working together, using their magic to protect everyone they could. But Mira started to wonder if Arata was more trouble than he was worth. It felt like he had dragged all of them into this mess. Meanwhile, Arata told Yui he had to go back. He had to stop what was happening. Yui asked if he even knew how to stop it. Arata admitted he did not, but since he was the one who caused it, he felt responsible for ending it. Yui admired his determination. Arata said he did not want to drag anyone else into the chaos. That was when Yui told him he could take control of his magic by choosing a thema and channeling magic through it. She explained that to become a real mage, he had to research and pick a thema, because that was where everything began and ended. Superbia, Invidia, Ira, Acedia, Avaritia, Eula, and Luxuria, the 7 deadly sins. Each one represented an archive where different themas could be found and studied. According to Yui, that was the shortcut he needed to gain full control of his magic. That was when Arata remembered Mira and mentioned Superbia. Yui confirmed that Superbia was the archive Mira's magic came from. She also explained that Mira's thema was Justitia, which represented justice. Hearing that, Arata started to get a better idea of how his own magic might work. If Mira's thema was justice, then maybe his was the opposite. He thanked Yui. and said he had to go back to the school and set things right. If he didn't, even Yui's world might be in danger. He said he could handle it and promised to show her, then asked her to send him back. A moment later, Arata reappeared inside Mira's protective barrier, right in front of Lilith and the others. He told them that if he could stop the destructive phenomenon, then everything would be fine. Mira still was not convinced and got ready to attack again, but Akio stopped her and said they should wait and see. If Arata failed, they could take care of it then. Arata quickly turned to his grimoire and chose rules as his thinema. The grimoire responded, confirming his choice. The heart, the existence, and the soul led to Impel, which belonged to the Superbia Archive. The Astal manuscript, Arata's grimoire, officially declared its contract with him. Without wasting any time, Arata activated his Thema and entered Magus mode. With that power, he and the grimoire could take control of all the magic in the area and erase it. He shouted for all the surrounding magic to vanish, and just like that, the destructive phenomenon stopped completely. But then something unexpected happened. Lilith, Erin, and Akio's clothes vanished. Only Arata and Mira were still dressed. Lilith screamed and scrambled to cover herself. Akio asked why Mira's clothes were still intact, and Mira explained that her crystal sphere had reflected the effect. She sighed and said the Demon Lord candidate was way too much trouble, and she never wanted to deal with that again. Then even Arata's clothes disappeared, making Lilith scream again in shock. Later, Arata proudly told Selena that he had saved everyone with his amazing new technique. Selena asked what kind of technique he meant. Erin jumped in and said that Arata's new power had erased the destruction entirely. Arata told them it was called Magus Mode. Selena said this was Arata's official debut as a mage. But Lilith cut in, warning him not to show that off to just anyone. Out of nowhere, Leify commented that Lilith should not be flashing her chest to people either. Then, true to form, Leify grabbed Lilith's chest and casually said she was impressed, talking about its elasticity, softness, and shape. Lilith told her to stop, but Leify seemed to be enjoying herself. Not long after that, Lilith pulled out her weapon and fired it. Arata and Selena quickly ran away. While they were alone, Arata asked if Selena really wanted to see him. She replied that what she wanted to see was what was under his underwear, but then instantly took it back. She just wanted to see him in Magus mode. Suddenly, Arata's magic book spoke up and said Selena was good at teasing him. Selena asked if it was really a magic book, and it answered by reminding her that the last time they met, she had been holding in her pee. Embarrassed, Selena told Arata to show her his magical powers. Since no one else was around, Arata activated Magus mode. Selena was amazed. Then, without warning, she used her magic to bind him using a photo. Her magic, Logos art, had the power to restrain even future Sorcerer Kings. Arata's magic book told him to show Selena his ultimate technique. In a flash, Arata broke out of the spell and made Selena's clothes disappear. Selena let out a loud scream, which reached all the way to Mira and Akio, who were swimming nearby. Akio asked Mira if she was still sure nothing was going on, and Mira replied that Arata really did seem like a complete pervert. Akio agreed, saying that a magic spell that people might actually be terrifying. Selena told Leify what had happened, and Leify said Arata sounded pretty interesting. While they were walking down the hallway, they suddenly heard voices coming from near Lilith's room. It was Arata and Lilith. Leify and Selena immediately assumed they were up to something naughty. But as soon as they made a sound, Lilith opened the door and punched both of them. Turns out, nothing was going on. Arata was just talking to her about how his magic might be able to bring Hijiri back home. Arata and the others were on their way to the mixed bath. Lilith explained that the reason Arata wanted to become a mage was to save his missing cousin, Hijiri, who had disappeared during the destruction phenomenon. Selena asked if there was any other way to bring her back. Lilith said that the headmaster had told her Arata needed to meet with the Trinity Seven. Arata remembered the headmaster saying the Trinity Seven had to become his allies. He already knew that Lilith, Erin, Leify, Mira, and Akio were part of the Trinity Seven, which made 5. So he asked who the other 2 were. Selena told him one of them was a girl named Yui, but she hardly ever came to school. Arata said he had already met Yui, which surprised Selena. She explained that Yui was a special sorcerer that could only talk to her in dreams. The last girl had disappeared before Arata even got to the magic school, and no one knew where she was now. Arata said there was no way he could meet all of them right away, and Leify told him to just focus on the ones he could reach for now. When they got into the bath, the girls started soaking while Arata watched from the side. He wondered out loud why they were still wearing clothes, since technically they did not need them in the bath. Mira and Akio immediately called him a disgusting pervert. Akio even warned that if she ever saw him naked again, she would punch him. Mira got out of the bath saying she could not relax in the same place as Arata. Arata figured that was just how Mira was. As the conversation went on, Arata told the Trinity's 7 members that he wanted to build real relationships with all of them. Leffy said that Akio was crazy strong and Mira was basically immune to any kind of magic. Arata remembered how Mira had reflected his spell before, so that checked out. Selena teased that maybe Arata should try learning how to control that clothes erasing spell and use it on just one person. She said it would be more fun that way. Erin clarified that the spell was not about strong people, it was a type of magic that erased other magic. Selena then joked that since Arata was a guy, why did he not just make something simple like a gun or a sword? Arata thought that sounded like a good idea, so he asked Lilith to give him her gun. Lilith said she could not because the weapon had to be summoned with magic. Arata asked if he could just copy it and use the same kind of magic. Lilith explained that her Thema and Archive were completely different from his. Selena suggested that maybe all of them should show Arata how their magic worked. Laffy pointed out that Arata was still just a level 1 candidate for Magic King. Arata admitted that his Thema only awakened after he saw Mira's. He then asked Lilith to show him her magic. Lilith refused, saying magic was not something you just flash in front of people for no reason. Arata begged her to at least show a little, just for a moment. Lilith still said no and told him he needed to study magic properly first. Arata kept pushing, saying he would do anything to bring Hijiri back, so she had to help him in any way she could. Hearing that, Lilith finally gave in a little and said that Arata owed her big time. He immediately hugged her, but she smacked him right away. After that, Lilith activated her magic. Her style was called Outer Alchemic, basically alchemy-based magic. Arata quickly told his magic book to transform into a gun, and somehow, it actually worked. Arata was thrilled. Lilith could not believe he had pulled it off so easily, since that kind of thing should have been impossible. The grimoire explained that it had copied Lilith's magic and rewritten it into a version Arata could use. They both wondered if Arata's magic could adapt and use spells from other mages. Arata said that, apparently, it could. Arata didn't expect that he actually had the ability to copy magic. He thought maybe he could be the kind of main character who could use every kind of spell out there. But according to Lilith, that was impossible. Arata could only copy the surface of a spell. He needed to understand the process behind it to really make it work. Both Arata and Lilith were shocked when they opened the classroom door and found all the students seemingly fast asleep. Arata tried to wake up Selena, but nothing worked. He started wondering if maybe everyone was trying to boycott Lilith's lesson. He half-jokingly suggested that maybe Lilith needed to improve her teaching skills, especially since this was what happened when she ignored her responsibilities as a teacher. Lilith defended herself, saying she never slacked off like that. Suddenly, Leffy showed up and said something else was going on. Arata, Lilith, Leffy, Mira, and Akio all headed to the headmaster's office to figure out what was really happening. The headmaster explained that this was a breakdown phenomenon, and students whose magic wasn't strong enough had fallen unconscious because of it. Oddly enough, the headmaster then made a comment about being tempted to tease the sleeping girls. Arata, surprisingly, went along with the mood. But before it went any further, Lilith immediately smacked both of them and told them to stop fooling around. Mira told Akio they needed to eliminate the breakdown phenomenon as soon as possible. The headmaster asked Mira to work together with the others, but she refused, insisting that she and Akio were more than capable of handling it on their own. Before leaving the room, Mira shot Arata a cold, judgmental look. Arata, half-jokingly, wondered aloud if maybe Mira had a crush on him. Erin quickly shut that down, saying Arata was way too full of himself. Arata told Erin she should try being a little more open, to which she dryly replied, "Like letting you see me naked again." Lilith then turned to the headmaster and asked if the breakdown phenomenon was really what he said it was. He confirmed that powerful magic was leaking from beneath the school. Leffy guessed that the magic could be coming from Yui. Arata asked if Yui was the girl with the second sexiest body after Lilith. The headmaster confirmed it. He explained that Yui lived in a prison underneath the school and her magic was going wild, which caused this whole situation. That was the first time Arata learned that the school even had an underground prison. Lilith, Arata, Leffy, and Erin made their way through a massive underground labyrinth to find Yui. Leffy explained that Yui was a mage who lived on the other side of this world, basically, the dream world. That was her thema, and that's why she was sealed away. She used Cardinal class magic, making her the second most powerful mage after the headmaster. According to Erin, Yui's immense power had caused her world to fall into a deep sleep. When Arata asked what that meant, Leafy said simply that the world Yui used to live in was destroyed. Lilith suspected that Yui might have been influenced by the Demon Lord candidate because she had met Arata. Arata realized there was a chance this whole phenomenon was partly his fault. Lilith reassured him that they could still fix it. Leafy encouraged them to find Yui before Mira and Akio did. Arata asked why it was so urgent. Arin explained that one of the duties of Grimoire security was to reformat breakdown phenomena and eliminate anything corrupted by them. So if Mira and Akio reached Yui first, they would likely destroy her. Understanding the stakes, Arata agreed they had to find Yui quickly. Since the place was dangerous, they needed to switch into Magus mode. Leafy noticed that something, or someone, seemed to be waiting for them. It turned out to be demons. Demons often show up during breakdown phenomena or in places with magical interference. They're creatures from another world that feed on magic, and those who wield it. Arata mentioned that the gun he created before might come in handy, but he didn't know how to summon it again. He asked his grimoire if it could transform into the same gun, but the book replied by asking him for the composition details. Arata was confused since the last time the book had done it easily. Meanwhile, Arin put up a barrier to keep the demons at bay. Arata kept trying to summon the gun he wanted. It did appear, but in a completely different form. He tried to use it, but it didn't work. Frustrated, he tossed it to the ground, and unexpectedly, it ended up canceling out Arin and Lilith's magic instead. In an instant, Arin's barrier vanished and the demons began closing in on them. Arata suddenly realized that what he had done had actually disabled Lilith and Arin's Magus mode. Seeing how dangerous things had gotten, Leafy told Arata to stay behind her while she handled the demons using her ninja skills. The demons were defeated in a flash. Leafy then told everyone to run from the area immediately. Arata was honestly surprised by how incredible Leafy's ninja powers were. According to Lilith, Leafy's abilities were top tier, and she might even be one of the 5 strongest mages. Arata then asked if all the Trinity 7 were like that. Arin replied that Leafy was a bit different. Arata figured maybe Yui was someone special to Leafy. After running for quite a while, they made their way down the staircase and things got darker. Suddenly, Lilith thought Arata was touching her body. Arata also felt something soft, like Lilith's chest. Lilith asked where he was putting his hand, but Arata insisted it wasn't him because he also felt something crawling inside his clothes. Without hesitation, Arin activated her magic by executing a macro from her spellbook, Ragna Yggdrasil. She used her Chaazic rune to eliminate the strange creatures that had clung to their bodies. Arata immediately asked his own grimoire to copy the spell Arin had just used, but unfortunately, the book responded that it hadn't reached the required level, so it was impossible to replicate it yet. Arata was caught off guard by that. Lilith explained that there were certain conditions that needed to be met to use someone else's magic. Leafy mentioned that the time Arata had managed to copy Lilith's spell was probably just a coincidence. Arata wondered if it had something to do with seeing her chest, but Arin reminded him that he had already seen hers too. Lilith asked Arata to stop mentioning chest over and over, especially in a place like that. Arata commented on how useful Arin's magic was, and Arin explained that she had written it into her spellbook and registered it as a macro. She also set up a defensive chant to make sure those creatures wouldn't get to Arata again. Arata thanked her and Arin smiled in response. Soon, more demons appeared and Lilith immediately started shooting at them. She reminded Arata that he really needed to learn how to use macros and chants. Arin said that if he wrote a macro in his spellbook and recited the chant properly, the registered spell would activate. Just as the demons closed in on Arata, Leafy stepped in and wiped them out effortlessly. She told Arata that she'd really appreciate it if he could master his magic quickly. To save Yubi, they needed Arata's unique power, one that could erase destructive phenomena. Leafy said her Thimo was hopes, so she had high expectations for Arata as a future Demon Lord candidate. By that point, they had reached the lowest level of the area. Arata was surprised that they made it there so easily. Lilith pointed out that weak shadows wouldn't be able to beat Leafy even if they attacked all at once, but Arin warned that the real threats were Mira and Akio. Right then, Mira and Akio appeared before them, walking through a wall they had just smashed down. Akio explained that they got there by breaking through the floor and then destroying every wall in a straight line. Mira quickly told Akio they had to go, since Yui was just ahead. Arata asked if they were planning to kill Yui. Mira said Yui was the cause of the destructive phenomenon, but Arata thought they were jumping to conclusions. Mira responded that she wouldn't mind starting with Arata, especially since his magic had no effect on her. Leafy challenged Akio and Akio was more than happy to accept. Mira asked Akio not to waste time. If Lilith and Leifi got in their way, they'd never get anywhere. Akio agreed and promised to wrap things up quickly. Just as Leifi was about to activate her magic, she told Arata and the others to go ahead, because only Arata had the power to save Yui. Leifi activated her magic connected to the NVIDIA archive by chanting Shinpu Shorai. In just a moment, she summoned a massive whirlwind. Arata lost his balance and fell to his knees right in front of Mira. Accidentally, he caught a glimpse of Mira's bunny print underwear. Mira, completely shocked and embarrassed, immediately told Akio to finish the fight, and without hesitation, Akio unleashed a powerful blow. Arata, Lilith, and Erin rushed straight to Yui's room. As soon as Lilith opened the door, poisonous gas began pouring out of it. Inside, a giant dragon loomed, and Yui looked completely different from how Arata had seen her before. According to Erin, what Arata saw earlier was Yui's ideal form. When the dragon's eyes opened, its magic resonated with Arata's. The dragon blasted its power straight at him, but Erin jumped in to shield him. Unfortunately, her barrier couldn't hold up against the dragon's strength. Lilith quickly switched her weapon to Buster mode and fired at the dragon. Arata asked if they had taken it down, but Lilith told him the attack wasn't strong enough. The dragon's magic was far too powerful. Just then, Mira and Akio showed up. Mira explained that the creature was Code D and its illusion had fully materialized. Seeing them arrive, Arata asked where Leifi was. Lilith even started to worry that something might have happened to her. Suddenly, Leifi appeared right behind Lilith and, out of nowhere, squeezed her chest, causing Lilith to scream loudly. Erin asked Akio if they should consider a ceasefire, but Akio thought they couldn't afford to take it lightly. That dragon wasn't just any illusion, it was the strongest kind, something like a demon. Mira wondered if Akio was planning to take it on alone, but Akio still wanted to give it a try. Leifi helped Arata up and told him to take a deep breath and refocus on his grimoire. Not long after, he started to recover, and the toxic gas that had been coming from his body began to fade. Watching Lilith and the others teaming up to take down the dragon, Leifi encouraged Arata to join them in the fight. She reminded him that magic battles could erase destructive phenomena, and if he truly wanted to find Hijiri, he would eventually have to face battles like this. Arata asked Leifi how to summon his gun, saying he wanted to use it. Leifi agreed, saying it was the best way to help Yui. Arata called her kind, but Leifi said she didn't expect anything from anyone. Yui had never really made friends, but the two of them had a lot in common. According to Leifi, Arata's Thema magic was the furthest thing from who he was. And because she didn't expect anything from others, she had ended up wishing for everything. Arata understood. Magic was about doing the things that seemed most impossible or unreasonable. He wanted to get everything under control and stop the destructive phenomenon. Leifi asked Lilith to give Arata a proper magic lesson. Lilith started explaining. She told Arata he needed to choose his materia first. His grimoire said the incantation could be the same as what Lilith used, and that part didn't matter much, but Arata had to be careful. He had a habit of underestimating magic. Using too much of it without thinking could end up swallowing him one day. Lilith explained that alchemy is bound by material exchange and that it uses either magic or a person's soul as its cost. So if it's used too much, the price could go beyond what Arata can handle. His grimoire warned that if he kept pushing his magic, it might overwhelm him, and Arata could turn into a demon. The book even mentioned that if his magic spiraled out of control, he might end up just like the demons he had faced before. And since Arata was a candidate for Demon Lord, he could potentially become an even greater threat, maybe even worse than the dragon. Still, Arata agreed to go through with it. Leifi told him to imagine the process, his grimoire turning into a gun, complete with a grip, barrel, and trigger. She gently kissed his finger as a way of placing her magic there. Then she told Arata to picture himself firing a magical bullet straight from the tip of that finger. Arata followed Leifi's instructions and started visualizing the weapon in his hand. After asking his grimoire to make it real, the book quickly activated the spell. In no time, it had transformed into a gun in his hand. With no hesitation, he ran straight toward the dragon. Mira could feel a powerful surge of magic radiating from him. Arata aimed the gun and fired at the dragon. It only took one shot. The dragon vanished instantly. Yui regained consciousness and greeted Leifi. Arata asked if she was okay. Yui smiled and rushed over and hugged him tightly. At that moment, she wasn't wearing anything, but she was overjoyed that Arata had saved her. Without any hesitation, Yui confessed that she loved him. Leifi smiled to herself. Watching the potential Demon Lord wipe out Code D in a single shot, especially while living side by side with her hopes, made things a lot more interesting for her. One morning when Arata woke up, he suddenly found Yui and Erin sleeping completely unclothed on either side of him. Lilith came into his room to wake him up so he wouldn't be late for class, but she was completely shocked to find Arata in bed with both girls. Instead of reacting with embarrassment, Arata cheekily invited Lilith to join them. Later that day during PE class, Yui walked up to Arata and pressed her body close to his. With a playful smile, she called him a pervert. Seeing how close Arata was getting to Yui, Erin immediately hugged him too, asking if he was happy, to which Arata simply nodded. Yui then joked that Arata shouldn't worry. She would be fine even if she was just his second wife. Arata still couldn't wrap his head around the fact that their magic academy actually had physical education classes. He was completely distracted watching Lilith run, his eyes fixed on the way her chest moved. Even Erin noticed and commented that Lilith, who was usually shy, actually looked pretty good with her figure. Out of nowhere, Mira and Akio showed up behind Arata, catching him off guard. Mira immediately told Akio to get rid of Arata, calling him sinful trash. Just as Akio was getting ready to strike, Arata begged her not to go through with it. Mira warned Yui that while she might have escaped trouble this time, both she and Arata were still dangerous. If anything went wrong, Mira and Akio wouldn't hesitate to eliminate them in the name of grimoire security. Yui nodded in understanding. Selena, who had been watching from a distance, called it a battle between the most powerful mages of the Trinity Seven over who would get to claim Arata. Lilith showed up and reminded everyone that endurance training was important for mages. She asked what was going on, and Arata casually replied that the girls were planning to fight over him. Just then, Liffy appeared, saying that she understood and that it would be best to settle things right there. Kaikio agreed, especially since someone had irritated her earlier. Laffy activated her magic by linking to the archive of Nvidia and executed her Thema. Akio responded by linking to the archive of Gula to activate hers. Not wanting to be left out, Erin declared that she also had something to prove as she wanted to become Arata's wife. She activated her magic by linking to the archive of Ira and launched her Thema as well. Lilith tried to stop them from using their magic on the spot, but Selena, ever the excited photographer, quickly began snapping shots of the moment. She captured Laffy in her shamanic spell form, Akio in her ancient mode, and Erin casting her Childic rune. She was amazed that she could photograph them in their Magus forms and joked with Lilith, asking if she wasn't going to join in too. After all, Arata was about to be taken from her. Caught off guard, Lilith blushed and stammered that she had no romantic involvement with Arata. Erin then pointed out that Arata liked her because of how her chest bounced when she ran. Embarrassed, Lilith quickly covered herself. Yui, refusing to stay quiet after hearing that the others were fighting over Arata, activated her own magic by linking to the archive of Avaricia. Selena could hardly contain her excitement. No one at the academy had ever seen Yui's Magus form before, and now she could even see her Arc Symphony clearly. Yui looked stunning. Lilith explained that Yui's magic belonged to the Cardinal class. With a cry of Starry Night Serenade, Yui pulled everyone into her world. Inside this dream world, Arata found himself entering Yui's room. She now looked like the mature version of herself, the same one he first met. Yui told him that this was her dream form. Arata admitted that while he liked her adult form, he also liked the other side of her, describing it as a charming blend of youth and boldness. He asked where everyone else was, and Yui explained that she had put them into a dream state, allowing them to sleep peacefully. However, Mira wasn't affected like the others. She had used her Gehenna scope at the last moment to reflect the spell. Surprised, Yui realized Mira had the power to bounce back any magic aimed at her. Arata suddenly remembered that Mira had once managed to make his clothes disappear using that same ability. Mira coldly replied that all she did was reflect his gross spell, and told him she found him absolutely disgusting. She made it clear that she would never forgive him, and turned and disappeared without another word. Arata said that Mira was cute, but also a little terrifying. Yui asked if Arata was interested in Mira too. Arata replied that it was only natural for a guy to want to get close to a cute girl, which made Yui laugh and say that Arata was really honest. As Yui leaned in to kiss him, Arata gently stopped her. He told her that if she really wanted to do something like that, they should at least get to know each other better first. Then he asked if she was friends with Laffy. Arata figured that since Yui didn't really understand what friendship meant and Laffy couldn't bring herself to expect anything from others, then Laffy's Thema must be hope, while Yui's might be friendship. Yui said he was right, but admitted that she had been asleep and alone all this time. Without the shock from Arata's magic, she would have never woken up, so in a way she was glad she didn't have anyone. That's when Arata finally understood. His magic had cancelled out Yui's magic and woke her up. Erin gently patted Yui on the head and asked her to be friends. Arata added that he would help Yui study her Thema. Yui got super excited about becoming friends with Erin. Then she looked at Arata and asked if being friends meant he could do anything he wanted with her now. Just as Arata was about to respond or maybe act on it, Lilith suddenly shouted, stopping him in his tracks. Arata was surprised that even in a dream, Lilith still managed to interrupt him. Yui giggled and said Lilith was seriously dedicated. Arata suggested that Yui return everyone to the real world. Instead, Yui suddenly kissed Arata and thanked him for saving her. In an instant, everyone returned to the real world, but only Arata and Yui were still unconscious. Eren, Lilith, and Leifi waited by their side for them to wake up. With Yui now part of the group that made 6 members of the Trinity 7, but they still had no idea where the 7th member was. Selena showed up and mentioned that since Arata had managed to save Yui, maybe he could also find the final member. Meanwhile, Mira was taking a bath. Akio asked why she seemed so deep in thought. When Akio touched her, Mira was startled and slipped, but Akio quickly apologized. The two of them soaked together in the hot springs. Akio could tell Mira was still feeling down and asked again what was bothering her, but Mira didn't feel like talking about it at first. Akio moved closer and reminded her that she didn't always have to act like the captain of Grimoire security. Sometimes it was okay to just be herself. Mira eventually opened up. Lately, she'd seen more and more signs of breakdowns, people losing control of their magic and turning into demons. These incidents were starting to shake her up. She wondered if any of this was connected to Arata, the candidate for Demon Lord. Mira felt like it was her duty to purify and destroy those powerful beings who had fallen. But Akio told her not to carry all that weight alone. She said those corrupted beings were her enemies too, and she'd take care of them. Mira just needed to keep leading her. Akio promised she'd always be by her side. Hearing that made Mira smile. Later that night, a sudden explosion shattered one of the school's glass windows. The next morning, students were shocked to find shards of glass scattered all over the floor. Arata asked Lilith what had happened. Lilith guessed that someone had broken into the school during the night. Mira suddenly accused Arata of being behind it, since there were faint traces of magical breakdown at the scene. Arata insisted he didn't do anything. Lilith said that if there were traces of that kind of magic, the most likely suspects were Arata and Yui. Arata didn't get how she came to that conclusion. Then Yui showed up and mentioned that there were traces of some powerful magic lingering. Lilith noticed how close Yui's face was to Arata's and reminded her to give him some space. But instead of backing off, Yui kissed Arata right in front of her. Lilith was completely shocked to see a girl like Yui do something like that in public. Yui laughed and said Lilith was cute when she got flustered. Arata asked if this whole incident had been Yui's doing. But Yui shook her head. She said it wasn't her fault, and besides, if her magic ever did go out of control, the whole school would have turned into a dungeon by now. Mira was pretty sure the magic came from either Arata or Yui. It felt just like the kind of magic she and Lilith had sensed back in the library, and Lilith agreed. Arata later told Eren about it and mentioned how serious Lilith and Mira had seemed when they were talking about that library magic. Yui, on the other hand, said she had no idea what they were talking about. According to Eren, it made sense. Yui had been asleep the whole time. Out of nowhere, Leifi showed up and said there was a ghost in that place. Yui got scared and immediately clung to Arata. Leifi asked if Arata was scared of ghosts, but Arata said ghosts didn't seem all that different from the demons or dragons they had faced. Yui disagreed. She thought demons were kind of cute, while ghosts were just plain scary. Still holding onto Arata, Yui appeared visibly shaken, though Arata did not seem particularly bothered. Eren then remarked that Arata tended to be easily influenced by appearances. Arata dismissed the comment and asked what the concern was if the ghosts had not harmed anyone. That was when Leifi explained that there had already been a victim. Eren shared that on a stormy day with heavy rain, most students had returned to their rooms after school to study alone. However, a pair of twins decided to remain in the school building to continue their studies overnight. Then something strange occurred. Windows suddenly shattered, and several books fell onto them. One of the twins realized that her older sister had disappeared. Despite a thorough search, she was never found. She remained missing to this day. The incident had taken place about 6 months before Arata arrived at the school. Arata asked how that incident was related to the ghost Leifi mentioned. Leifi said that recently during rainy days, some students had reported sightings of the missing girl on campus. Believing it was worth investigating, Arata invited the others to accompany him to the location where the event occurred. When they reached the library, they encountered Mira and Lilith. Arata explained that he wanted to understand what had happened. Mira warned him not to interfere if he was not serious about helping. Arata responded that if a dangerous phenomenon was occurring, it would be better for him to be present. At the time, Akio was still asleep, so he felt relatively safe. Mira advised him not to get in the way. Arata asked if there had been any clues left behind. Just then, Erin noticed Selena nearby and asked if she had come to investigate the matter. Before Selena could reply, a sudden force swept through the area and transported them elsewhere. In an instant, the entire room had shifted. Mira identified their new location as the Eternal Library, meaning someone had moved them into it directly. Akio woke up, sensing that something was happening, and reminded everyone to stay together. Arata accidentally held onto Selena, who asked him to let go. He apologized and stepped away. Suddenly, an unexpected attack flew toward Arata. Selena moved quickly and pushed him aside. Then, Arata saw a girl who resembled Selena, although she wore a different outfit. The girl asked if he was the Demon Lord candidate. Her name was Liselot, though she was commonly called Lise. Both Lilith and Mira immediately recognized her. Lise greeted them and swiftly attempted to take their magic. Fortunately, Lefi intervened just in time to stop her. Lise acknowledged both Lefi and Akio. Akio guessed that Lise had become a dark mage. Selena checked on Arata, and he asked what was happening. Selena then revealed that Lise was her twin sister. Arata asked if the person everyone believed to be a ghost was actually Lise. Lise smiled at the mention of the rumor. Lilith explained that Lise had conducted a forbidden experiment in an attempt to connect herself to the Eternal Library. Mira added that Lisa used to serve as vice captain of Grimoire security, and Selena noted that she was also one of the Trinity Seven from Acedia. Lisa laughed and said it was interesting that so many powerful mages had gathered around the future Demon Lord. She saw it as an opportunity to absorb their magic. She then stepped away, saying she needed to continue studying magic through her grimoire. She admitted that her involvement with Grimoire security had only been a way to gain access to knowledge about destructive phenomena. When Lisa turned her attention to Arata, Selena acted quickly and protected him. Lisa acknowledged that Selena had discovered her intentions. Selena, who could also use Logo's art, had calculated exactly where Lise would appear. Lisa praised her sister and asked whether she had been improving her magic. Lilith and the others agreed that Lise had crossed the line and decided to work together to stop her. In the middle of everything, Arata made a casual comment about her appearance. Erin asked if he often made such observations, and Arata replied that he respected beauty in general. Lisa realized that Arata had only recently started learning magic. Arata said that when people called something wrong or sinful, he did not quite understand what they meant. Lisa responded that magic was an expression of human potential, and labeling it as wrong made no sense to her. She also pointed out that taking power from a Demon Lord candidate was, in a sense, an act of rebellion. Without warning, Lisa appeared behind Selena and placed a mark on her neck to drain her energy. Mira immediately sensed a surge in Lisa's magical power. Lisa then activated a destructive phenomenon and revealed that a sealed Demon Lord elemental was hidden within the Eternal Library, and she intended to claim it. Lisa bit Selena to drain all of her magic while Selena was still unconscious. Mira noticed a mark at the bite wound. It was the seal of the Demon Lord. She told Lisa that she had become a sinful Demon Lord. According to Lisa, the ultimate goal for any mage is to become a Demon Lord, so it was only natural for mages to aspire to that. What she said made sense, but Lilith believed Lisa should have done more studying and research before taking that step. Unfortunately, Lisa wasn't interested in doing things the hard way. She preferred to skip straight to the finish line, just like Arata. For Lisa, skipping the process and jumping straight to the result was her research. Arata agreed with her, saying shortcuts were the best way to go since he didn't like dealing with complicated stuff either. If there was an easier way to do something, he'd absolutely take it. However, he wasn't okay with stealing a friend's magic. His grimoire asked him if he was sure about going up against Lisa, pointing out that she was way stronger than any opponent he had faced so far. Arata responded confidently, saying the title of candidate for Demon Lord belonged to him and him alone, and he was sure he could beat her. He activated his magic, tapping into the Superbia archive, and instantly executed his thema, transforming his grimoire into a gun. Lisa scanned Arata's magical energy with ease. She said his power was impressive, strong enough to nullify all magic, erase destructive phenomena, and even cancel out Yui's high-level abilities. She also mentioned that based on Selena's research, underestimating Arata would be a big mistake. Apparently, Lisa had stolen research from the mages whose magic she had taken, including Selena. Knowing Arata's capabilities, Lisa asked why he didn't just join her. Lilith immediately urged Arata not to accept anything Lisa offered and begged him not to listen to her at all. Suddenly, Lisa changed her appearance to look like Hijiri. She knew Arata wanted to save Hijiri, the girl who had been swallowed by the breakdown phenomenon. Lisa told him that if he joined her, she could help him rescue Hijiri faster. Arata was shocked that she knew about Hijiri. Lisa kept pushing him to join her if he wanted answers. At that moment, Lefi and Akio rushed in to attack Lisa. but the sheer force of Lise's magic was enough to push them back. Then, out of nowhere, Lise kissed Arata. She felt like she'd have gained something incredible. It was her first kiss with a guy, and she was surprised at how intense it felt. By that point, Arata's power had nearly vanished. Lise laughed triumphantly, proud that she had successfully stolen his magic. The power in her wings grew even stronger, and she praised Arata's incredible magic now flowing inside her. With everyone present, Lise decided to test out the power she had just stolen. With a snap of her fingers, she nullified everyone's magic and caused their clothes to vanish. Only Mira and Leifi were able to block the spell. Mira quickly started scanning Lise's magic and told Leifi to buy her some time. Leifi understood and took the chance seriously. Mira then said she would destroy Lise, and Lise welcomed the challenge. She was eager to prove she was the strongest. Leifi used her ninja speed to launch a surprise attack on Lise's eyes, but Lise teleported to dodge it. She admitted that Leifi's speed hadn't decreased, but she still believed she was the superior one. Leifi acknowledged that Lise had definitely gotten stronger. Most people couldn't dodge her attacks, let alone stay unharmed. Lise then tried to bind Leifi using the magic she had stolen from Selena, but she wasn't able to pull it off completely since she hadn't fully mastered Selena's powers. Eventually, though, she managed to restrain Leifi's left hand. Leifi quickly leaped back, trying to break free from the bindings, and even complimented Lise on how much stronger she had become. But by that time, Lise realized too late that Mira had already finished analyzing her magical signature. Mira immediately froze Lise's Acedia archive. Curious to see how strong she really was, Lise wondered if she could survive Mira's attack. According to Leifi, if Mira's Gehenoscope had no effect on Lise, then she and the others were definitely in trouble. Mira promised to make Lise regret acting arrogant in front of a justice agent. As she invoked the White Universe, Mira began to break down Lise's power. Lise started to panic and quickly teleported away. Leifi asked if that meant they actually defeated Lise, but then she pointed out that it was pretty clear they hadn't been able to beat her. Quietly, Lise tried to steal Mira's crystal orb, but failed. Lise admitted that if she hadn't stolen Arata's magic, she might have been in serious danger. Mira said Lise was always causing them trouble, and Leifi added it was just because Lise was being foolish. Lilith then asked if Arata was doing okay. Arata said he didn't even have the energy to enjoy seeing his friends naked, which surprised Lilith, especially considering his magic had just been stolen. The fact that he could still joke like that meant he was probably fine. Eren reminded them that if they didn't get Selena's magic back, she might die and disappear. Lilith explained that a mage's existence is tied to their magic. If Arata lost his magic, he wouldn't be able to remain in this world. Eren realized that's why Arata had looked like he was about to pass out earlier. Arata then thanked his grimoire. The grimoire advised him to get out of there as soon as possible. Arata asked if Lise was really that dangerous. The grimoire confirmed that she was because of the magic she had stolen from him. With no other choice, Arata stood up. At that moment, Lise appeared and asked if he planned to run away, implying that he didn't care about Hijiri. That made Arata remember the moment Hijiri kissed him before she disappeared. Suddenly, Lise felt something strange. Arata responded, saying of course he cared about Hijiri. But right now, Selena was the one in danger. Lise asked if he seriously thought she'd let him just walk away. Leifi began preparing to strike. Lise calmly said she could see Leifi's movements. But as soon as Lise teleported, Leifi managed to catch up and smash one of her wings. Lise was shocked that Leifi could match her teleportation, calling it unfair. Leifi kept moving around and Lise tried to chase her down and retaliate. But when she launched her attack, she only hit Leifi's clothes, which Leifi had ditched. In a flash, Leifi jumped out and destroyed Lise's other wing. Lise's movement started to slow down as a result. Mira commented that no matter how high Lise's magic level was, if she hadn't mastered it yet, she was no better than a third-rate mage. Leifi hadn't realized that until Mira mentioned it. Realizing her disadvantage, Leifi said she'd invite them back for a rematch once her magic was stable again. Then she vanished. Afterward, Arata and the others returned to the school library. The battle had ended in a draw, but next time, Lise would likely have full control over Arata's stolen magic. Suddenly, Arata thanked Mira for her outfit. Mira hadn't realized her clothes had been torn and became flustered. She then asked Akio to make Arata more useful before Lise came back to challenge them again. During PE class, Mira and Akio told Arata they needed his power to fight Lise. But Arata was too busy staring at Mira and Akio's bodies. He asked what exactly he was supposed to do if he needed to go through magic training. Did that mean climbing a tower or heading into a dungeon? Mira explained they didn't have time for that, so they were going to unlock his hidden potential directly. After all, Arata had the ability to copy other people's magic. Arata said that power didn't work so well with certain spells because of something related to the process. That's why Mira said Akio would be the one to fight Lise. Akio even let Arata copy her spell, Urchin, and told him to get on with it. Arata admitted he still didn't understand how the process worked. Mira told him to figure it out quickly, or he'd die. Akio started showing off her magic power to pressure him. Terrified, Arata tried to dodge her attacks. Meanwhile, Lilith walked over to the room where Selena was sleeping. Erin was still there by her side, and Yui was playing her violin. Yui said she had managed to stop Selena's magic from going out of control. Lilith thanked her, deeply grateful for the help. It turned out Yui had done it for Arata. Erin looked out the window and mentioned that it seemed like Arata was getting beaten up pretty badly by Mira and Akio. Hearing that, Lilith looked a bit concerned, but she tried to play it off. Erin still couldn't believe that Mira and Akio had agreed to give Arata a crash course. Lilith hoped they'd all see the results soon, especially before Lise's powers fully stabilized. Just then, Leify showed up and reminded them they didn't have time to relax. Lilith asked if Leify was really okay. In truth, Leify still couldn't move her arm properly. Meanwhile, Arata was still dodging Akio's attacks. At one point, he got thrown back and accidentally landed right on top of Mira. Without meaning to, his hand ended up on her chest. Arata commented that Mira's chest wasn't too big or too small. It felt just right to him. Before Mira could hit him, Arata admitted he knew he was probably only seconds away from getting seriously hurt, which was exactly why he wanted to say that it was an incredible feeling, and that he was really grateful to her. He apologized and then gave her a squeeze. Mira, completely shocked, screamed and smacked him over the head with her crystal orbs so hard that it left him bleeding. Akio still gave Arata a bit of credit. Even though his magic hadn't fully recovered, he was holding up surprisingly well. Arata was confused. If Akio's magic wasn't fully back yet, how could her attacks still be that powerful? Akio explained that Sakina Mao, the original creator of the ancient spell, could actually use it without magic at all. Mira told Arata not to dodge the next hit, since that wouldn't help with his training. Arata argued that if he didn't dodge, he might die. Akio pointed out that unless he used magic to reinforce his body, he'd never be able to beat Lise. Arata then asked if he was supposed to fight like Leify. Akio laughed and told him no one was expecting him to go that far. A magic battle didn't always have to be that intense. She said Arata's magic was unique. His ability to strip people of their clothes and that weird gun he conjured from his own magic were definitely one of a kind. They went right back into training after that. At the same time, Lilith and the others were talking about Lisa in Selena's room. According to Leify, most mages chose themas that were pretty far from their morals and personal values. Erin said Lise's thema was stagna, freezing. With Lise's personality, Lilith was certain she wouldn't stay quiet for long. Suddenly, the window next to them shattered. That seemed to be a sign that Lise had arrived. Demons began appearing and instantly drained the magic from two girls nearby. In a flash, their clothes disappeared. The headmaster showed up and handed them towels, thanking them for the lovely view they had unintentionally provided. The girls quickly ran off, embarrassed. The headmaster knew that Mira and Akio were busy training Arata, and the rest of the Trinity 7 didn't have much magic left to fight. He told his assistant that the school was in danger, and to him, that made things exciting. The assistant was baffled by how cheerful he was and joked that if Lilith were around, she'd have already slapped him for acting that way. The assistant then left, saying she would go help defend the school. The headmaster commented that if Arata didn't hurry, Lisa, the wicked magic girl, was going to launch her attack. Lisa finally appeared and said she'd love it if the headmaster would be her opponent. The headmaster responded that he was an old man, so he really appreciated if she went easy on him. But since it was the first time a girl ever said that to him, maybe he'd face her in his alternate form. Lisa smiled and said she would take the headmaster's magic and the school itself as souvenirs to prove she had graduated from that place. Without wasting time, she commanded a group of demons to attack him, but the headmaster effortlessly destroyed them. He then grabbed Lisa and calmly told her that the first lesson was simple. When facing a more powerful mage, she needed to have her grimoire ready. Lisa broke free and admitted that while the headmaster was impressive, she couldn't just sit back and wait to see how the fight would play out. She spread her wings wide and shattered the school's window as she flew out. The headmaster sighed, admitting that it would be his responsibility to fix the damage. Lisa quickly cast Selena's magic spell, Ligur Macro. The headmaster instantly recognized it and pointed out the second lesson. If she truly wanted to back someone into a corner, she needed to understand what kind of magic she was dealing with. Without hesitation, he began chanting. Lisa was shocked that he could access a spell so quickly. He explained the third lesson. While some people need to make physical movements to cast spells, others, like him, only need a macro spell. He was one of those people. With just a snap of his fingers, he broke free from her magic. The headmaster continued, saying the fourth lesson was about efficiency. If she could analyze a spell's composition and form, then even a small amount of magic would be enough to cast it effectively. He then gave her a demonstration. Lieselot laughed, admitting it was exciting to go up against a paladin. She also confessed she wanted to take a large part of his research for herself, but the headmaster believed she wasn't ready for that yet. She acknowledged how incredible he was, even though he hadn't even moved to counter her attacks. He only smiled, but that quiet confidence was the true strength of a paladin, a master of magic. Suddenly, Lieselot froze in surprise as she noticed a massive number of giant monsters gathered behind the headmaster.